Okay, next up the deck on the tier list. Sorry, that's a dog shaking in the background. Is Geppetto. How I am tiering the talents. Also, it shows everyone. I'm just doing Geppetto though. Each talent, I'm thinking of it on 3 parameters. First, how good is it on its own? How many builds can it fit into? And if it's not a build around that talent or doesn't involve that talent, how well is it if you just take it and it's on its own, like not synergizing with anything else? Second is when that talent is in its build, like that you would normally go with it, how vital is it to that build? How good does it do and how does it exceed performance in that? And then third is in its build, what is the order that you would take it in? Is it the first thing that you would want at level like 2 or 3 for helping with clear speeds and getting you through the game? Or is it like a nice little touch of flair at the very end that you'd want like level 7, 8, or 9? Obviously you can't really control that, but you know, like if you could choose the order that you would want to put it in, where would it fall? Lastly, the starting talents, they are also compared against each other. If you take rocket science, you can't take dummy ball. So how good is a starting talent compared to the other starting talents? Because there's like a bit more of a factor there. So starting with the best starting talent, dummy ball. This, I'll try to say what everything does as well as I go through them. Dummy ball just does like extra damage with your special when you throw it out. That doesn't really matter because you don't really do a special build for damage with Geppetto, but it creates a dummy. The cooldown on this is just the cooldown of your special. So if you have really short special cooldown and multiple special charges, you can get them out a lot quicker than you can with Geppetto's trait by setting up dummies. You can get dummies out quicker than you can with twin dummies. So it's also a guaranteed dummy, where twin dummies doesn't always guarantee a dummy. Pretty much every build that Geppetto has benefits from this that can, you know, like rocket science and twin or unstable cores doesn't, but so many of his builds just require getting dummies out quick and utilizing them, and this is a really great talent for it, probably the best. Now rocket science is weird because it's a good talent, but it doesn't synergize with anything Geppetto. Like, it's really good on its own, it's good movement, it's decent damage. Combining it with Vajra is a lot of stagger. Combining it with Ring of Dispel is really nice, but it just doesn't provide you anything with the rest of his talents. Like, the only talent is maybe Morning Rage that it actually like provides you something with. And I guess, you know, Flash of Genius if you get dash stuff, but it's not bad. I hope they update this and add something to do with Ignite and your dummies. Like, your dummies do more damage to ignited enemies, or you can ignite your own dummies and like heal them with it or something. I wish they added something with this so that it could synergize with this build. Because like, if they did that, if this could heal your dummies, you could take fireworks. And now it's like, this could proc fireworks. I don't know, do something like that. Twin dummies is tough because it's a talent. Some talents are really good, or like they work just if you have them at common. Like dummy ball, you don't need to upgrade this. It will do pretty much like the majority of what you need it to do at common. You can upgrade it just for extra damage if you want, but twin dummies kind of needs to hit legendary because you want to guarantee that you're putting 2 dummies out at once. It is good. There are some builds that I would take twin dummies over dummy ball. Like, I would prefer how this works, having 2 dummies right next to each other. But for the most part, I would just take dummy ball because you can also kind of easily set that up. Oh, twin dummies has a like 55% chance to create 2 dummies, and then at legendary it's 100%. Rocket science also, you dash and you shoot fire out and ignite things and deal damage. Unstable cores is unfortunately pretty bad. Unstable cores, after 5 seconds your dummies become unstable. When they die, they explode doing damage. Or if they're unstable and you hit them with your power, they go to wherever you hit them, explode and deal damage. Or you can run over and pick up your dummy and just explode it right away. I love this talent and I love playing with it. There's not a lot in his kit that synergizes with this. It's a fun talent, but it's also a hard playstyle because if your dummies don't become unstable, it's like you didn't take a talent. If you don't have enough health on them, or if you're not protecting them, yeah, they'll just die and you don't have a talent. So it's tough to play around. It's a hard playstyle. It's a pretty slow playstyle, but I love the playstyle. Next is Nailing Strike. This does, is it 400% more damage? 400% more damage, adds an additional strike to attack combo. It basically gives you a combo. It's a 3-hit combo. It's a really slow animation. The only benefit that it has is like when you hit your dummies with Geppetto, you heal them. It gives that an AoE, and there's a certain talent right here, this next talent. It's sometimes hard to hit all your dummies, and this gives you an AoE to hit them, but it's just like, In my opinion, the last thing I'd want, I don't think it's bad. I just think everything else that Geppetto has is pretty good. And for the most part, this isn't necessary in any builds. You're also not going a lot of builds with Geppetto where your attack matters a whole lot. It's normally your dummy's attack or your power. Oiled mechanisms. This might be a hot take on my end. I have a feeling a lot of people will think this is here, and it might be for them. Like, again, if this is your list, go ahead. It's good. It's really good, and you can get boss melts with this pretty easily. This is when you attack your dummies, they attack in place right here. They attack immediately in their position, dealing 40% damage. It's really, really good if you can have 3 dummies and actually be able to hit all 3 dummies, and you're in a boss fight where they're staggered, where things aren't moving, and you can just sit there and hit it over and over and over and over. You will melt the boss doing that. The issue is enemies move. When you hit your dummies, they're not moving. It's like they're not lunging forward. Yes, some fights, enemies will all just come to you and you can just sit there and hit these over and over and over and over and kind of have a shield. But the issue is, like, healers exist in this game and they back up and they heal things. So yeah, they back up and then you use your power to hit the dummy into them, and the dummy's right next to them, and then you run up to it and smack it a few times, and then the healer backs up. And I find myself just feeling like this is a really slow play style that is tough to pull off. There's something that would go into the build that you use this that I think is a lot better and gives you some range. Again, like, trust me, I understand this can melt bosses. I've done some videos where I've just absolutely destroyed games with this talent, but I think outside of bosses, it just feels too slow to me. This might be another hot take. Heart ties, I think, is S tier. Heart ties, your dummies get up to, what is it, 70%? I believe it's 70%. 10 vitality. Yeah, 70% of your vitality, and then you get armor for each dummy active. In my mind, Geppetto, you always want to play with heart ties, and you always want to play with Horn of Plenty and most likely Ogre Blood. I know you want to do that with a lot of characters, but I think with Geppetto, it just makes so much sense because you want your dummies to live. So you want to have a lot more vitality. In Avalon, your dummies don't live if you don't have this. Like, they just don't. You'll set your dummy up, one gargoyle will come by, swing and smack it, and your dummy's dead. It's an unfortunate thing with Geppetto that might need some form of balance, but this is the solution to that right now. And pretty much every build benefits from your dummies living, even if you're taking like Morning Rage and Unstable Cores, because you need them to live for 5 seconds to become unstable. This is phenomenal for getting them there. Yeah, I think this is pretty much good in every single build, but it is a thing that I would want to take around like midway in Chapter 2, not in Chapter 1. This is another talent like that, and I think it's slightly before. This is Large Family. It gives you a 4th dummy, which is good in a lot of his builds, because 3 dummies attacking, just add 1 more. A lot of times you can get all your dummies to attack at once, you know, like with this. Also, it increases your trait cooldown, which is pretty much beneficial in every single build. Like, it's really beneficial, especially in these 2 builds where you don't have another way to create dummies or like the chance to double create. So it's pretty much good in every single build. Next, we have Fort Lightning, which creates a laser connection between your dummies, and any enemy caught in between that gets like you deal damage to them. It could be S tier. I think it's S tier because you can deal damage to a lot of enemies at once. There's also my favorite Geppetto build with magnetic hammers and flux capacitor. You can also vacuum capsule, where you can set up a whole bunch of dummies in front of you, use vacuum capsule, throw that out in front of you, send all the dummies to the other side of a group of enemies. Use Forked Lightning, you're now hitting everything. Then you have Flux Capacitor and you pull them all back in with Magnetic Hammers. This also just does a lot of stagger damage. I think it's a really good talent. I don't think it's the best defensive talent. Like, I'm really tempted to put it in A tier and probably like the top of A tier, because I actually think there's another defensive talent that I prefer before it. Morning Rage is situationally good. I mean, it is pretty good in most of his builds. Like, your dummies, even with heart ties, will eventually die. I mean, depends. I've had actually plenty of runs where my dummies don't die at all. Like, I'll go into a camp with all my dummies up and they'll live the entire time, but that's because a lot of Horn of Plenty. Morning Rage gives you, I think it's 8 seconds at max, or is it more? Strength for 4 seconds, +2, +2, +2. So it's 10 seconds. It continues to give you strength. So say you have like 2 dummies die, you're at 20 seconds of strength, not 10 seconds. Like, it doesn't refresh 10, it adds. So that's one of the cool things about it, is you can have strength for a long time, especially if you are just letting them die. Most of the builds I do with Geppetto, I don't want them to die. It's obviously phenomenal with rocket science and unstable cores, because having strength in both of these is a lot more likely that you'll have your dummies dying. But yeah, I think it's about there. Pogo hoppers, I think they buffed this. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they buffed it. Your dummies just attack farther, and they attack up to 100% farther, 33, so basically 200% farther. That's good. The only thing the reason I have it in B tier is like the more you play Geppetto, the more you get used to positioning your puppets, and the more like there's certain builds that you don't need this at all. Like you can position all your puppets at once. Yeah, I don't necessarily think you need this, but it is just nice, especially if you're playing like rocket science or unstable cores and you want to make sure that your dummies are getting to enemies. Like if you're playing one of these two, I'd go ahead and use it. If you're playing one of these two right here, I don't think you need it. Flux capacitor is phenomenal in my mind. When you use your defense, as long as you have a shield on you, your hammer will, or your power will affect all of the dummies that are in front of you. This normally means like about 2. You know, you can use your trait to set up one, then throw dummy ball right in front and then pop your defense, and now you can smack both of these. You basically just doubled your power's damage. It also increases your power's damage. Why it's also up here is the builds that it is good in. It is like one of the key factors, probably like the second or the main key factor into making this work. If you have magnetic hammers and you have a large family, you could be hitting 4 dummies every time with your power guaranteed, and that pretty much like deletes enemies in Avalon. Like it's an insane amount of damage. And if you have that build, I did that build recently with Geppetto. I forget what I called it. I think it's called like my favorite Geppetto build or something. You play Geppetto like so quickly. You can clear camps so quickly, which Geppetto normally can't do. I love this talent. Clockwork Medicine. This is good in one specific build in my mind. Healing your dummies. Your special already heals dummies. This gives your dummies regeneration. You don't really need that. If you have heart ties and you're going for a vitality build, you should have enough vitality that like you can keep your dummies up pretty often, and if one dies you'll have it on cooldown, or you'll have like another dummy ball. There's one specific build that it's good, and because of that it's really like vital and helpful in the build that it's good in, but I don't think it's necessary at all in any other builds. I really wouldn't take it in any other builds. The build that it is really good in is Fireworks. That's not Fireworks. Fireworks is a talent that really wants to be at legendary. Let me get the exact numbers. Each time a dummy regains 30% of its maximum health, it shoots a homing missile that deals 15 damage to a nearby enemy. When you upgrade this doesn't do more damage, but it's the health that the dummy needs to regain is less for it to shoot a firework. You deal 15%, like you heal a dummy 15% when you hit it with your hammer. So when you decrease this, that becomes 15% if it's at legendary, meaning every time you hit a dummy with your hammer, they'll send out a firework, where if you have it at base, it's every 2 hits. Your special also heals your dummies for 40 health. So at 15, it can send out 2 fireworks, but be right on the cusp of a 3rd. With Clockwork Medicine, this applying regeneration to your dummies, it can now just proc fireworks over and over as you're hitting your dummies. And then if you have something like oiled mechanisms, you have a wall of dummies in front of you that are just killing everything in front of you, and then you have fireworks popping off, hitting everything at a range. I think fireworks is essentially the better oiled mechanisms, and that's why I put it up here. Yeah, this is a great talent and is really fun when you get it working. It does require quite a bit, and it is also good in other builds. It's not as good without its build, but like its build, it is such a key factor to it. Now this is Family Meeting. This talent makes your dummies, when there's 3 or more dummies out, they gain a bonus to attack speed, and as well as you. I think the benefit lies more when you have, like, it is good if you don't have this, but I think its benefit really shows when you have oiled mechanisms, because it increases your attack speed. So now every time you hit your dummies, they attack. You can attack more, you know, making your dummies attack more. It also benefits a lot from having something like sharp noses, which I'll talk about later in the future. This is a really good talent. It's also good if you aren't doing like the twin dummies, fireworks, oil mechanisms build, and you have heart ties and you can just kind of keep 3 dummies up at all time. Like they're just going to be attacking more often. Combines well with pogo hoppers as well, you know, just making sure they're always hitting things. Laser lenses. This talent is S tier in my mind. It's also so satisfying to see. It gives your dummies a range option. When you use your defense, dummies, they have to wait a little bit, which is unfortunate. Like they could die before they get it off, but they wait a little bit. and then they launch a laser out of their eyes that deals a lot of damage. It increases damage, 200% range damage. Yeah, it's really good. It does a good amount of stagger, and if you have a large family and you have 4 of these up, or if you have the ultimate where you have Mecha Puppet, yeah, this will just like chunk enemies in damage. I prefer it to Forked Lightning because it's more damage, but having these together is really, really good. Vacuum Capsule, this also might be a hot take. I love Vacuum Capsule. I'm close in my mind to putting Vacuum Capsule in S, but I just don't think I think it's really, really good and important in the Explosive Cores build. And I think that's one of the tough things is I think it is a bit of like a higher skill ceiling to get used to playing with Vacuum Capsule in the way you should. One thing you could do with Vacuum Capsule, already kind of mentioned it, is get 2 dummies out, either with twin dummies or dummy ball. Throw a special now in front of you, have your dummies shoot across and like hit a boss, use your defense, get flux capacitor, and then pull all your dummies in with magnetic hammer and then hit them out again, and then throw another vacuum capsule and have them come all back. It's just like a really, really good combo. It helps. It's another thing positioning wise where you don't need to be right next to your dummies to position them, which I think is really cool, because I think that's one of Geppetto's downfalls and why he plays slow is you need to run around to the back of your dummy, hit it through an enemy. It is like tough to get used to, but I love this talent. Also, it makes your power technically deal more damage. Magnetic hammer is maybe here in my mind, but it's probably right here. This increases your power's damage, and it also makes it, every time you use power, you pull in a dummy and smack it. You now no longer have to worry about your positioning 2 dummies. Also, if you have flux capacitor active, where if you have a shield on you, it affects all the dummies. So you can pull all 4 dummies or 3 dummies and hit them all at once. This is a talent that when you play with it, you just wish this is how Geppetto worked normally, and then you play another game and you don't have it and you're like, oh, it's a bummer. Like, I love this talent. It's good in pretty much every single build. Really, really good in Explosive Cores builds. You'll probably still use it in Rocket Science builds. You might not use it in Twin Dummy build if you're going like the full Twin Dummy build in my mind, but really, really good in Dummy Ball builds. I love this talent. Sharp Noses is also another really good talent. Geppetto has a lot of S tier talents in my mind. Dummies have a 50% chance of dealing like, what is it, 150% damage? 160% damage, and that increases quite a bit when you level it up. If you have this active and then you have this active, so more attack speed, and you every time you hit your dummies they attack, you can get this to proc so much, and it is so good. Sharp Noses hits incredibly hard, especially if your Mecha Puppet uses Sharp Noses and hits. It is so good. Yeah, I love this talent. It's pretty much good in every single build as well. Flash of Genius. Aladdin, I put Master Thief at S. Flash of Genius, this is just off the merit that you can get absolute trash in it. It does, like with Tommy Tobacco, you get an extra choice, which is really cool. Magical objects are good pretty much all the time. Like, I think I'll put it in A, and like the very end of A, because say you are going like a full build and you run out of rerolls, and then you see this and something like down here that you don't want, yeah, you're going to take this, and I don't know. It's good. You just get more magical objects. It's just tough because this is another talent that you really want to get to legendary, so you actually get all your magical object pulls. But I mean, I'm considering B just off of like, hey, it's luck. Lightning Rod dummies, this is probably C tier in my mind. When you use defense, after a little bit of time, lightning will strike your dummies and do an AoE. That sounds really good because your dummies theoretically are always around enemies, but thing is they're not always around enemies. If you're positioning them well, this could be really good because you can again have like 4 dummies hit something at once. The only other thing is it's less damage than Forked Lightning, and it's less damage than Laser Lenses, so it's like, it's the last defensive talent that I'd pick. And I mean, I recently did a full defensive build, which it did work really well, but it's unlikely that you're doing a full defensive build for Geppetto, and I would rather take one of these 2 in any other build before this. Then the final talent that he has, which was added that isn't on the list, is right here, Explosive Builds. When built by trait, dummies emit a blast dealing 40 area damage. This damage increases as you level it up, and as you level up. It is sad to me that that is the final talent they came up with. I was hoping it would be something to combine with Rocket Science. I mean, it combines with twin dummies because you place 2 at once, and yeah, they're double damage. It doesn't work with Dummy Ball. I'd probably put it very low B tier, probably behind Pogo Hoppers. Yeah, I just don't really mesh with it a whole lot. It's an okay talent. And yeah, there is my Geppetto talent tier list. He's got a lot of S tier, good amount of A. I think Geppetto is just a really good character. Again, even like the thing about him, the last like worst talent that I have for him, Nail and Strike, I still think is a good talent. It still provides benefit. I don't think he has any this does nothing for him talents like Aladdin had. Yeah, I also think this is kind of just a testament to the developers and how they have balanced the game in my mind. Okay, I didn't do this for the Aladdin tier list, but I wanted to do this for the Geppetto tier list. This is just at the very end. I wanted to talk about, on YouTube, Wackaboo gave me this comment and this idea. Basically, I'm just going to not like give a tier list of each of the builds, but just talk about the builds that I like. And it's going to go through the order that I ideally would want to take the talents in this build, and then just give you some other ideas like for things that could go in this build. And so this first build is the magnetic hammers and flux capacitor build. You want to start with dummy ball, then you want magnetic hammer and flux capacitor. While your shield is up, you will be using power on all of your dummies, and magnetic hammers pulls all the dummies in and hits them. So this becomes like a really, really strong and quick build for Geppetto. You want heart ties because you want your dummies to stay alive. So this would be level 2, level 3, level 4 ideally, and then be playing for vitality in this. Level 5, I would take the overclock ultimate because the level 10 upgrade that you get for it just helps the damage from this even more. I like playing with vacuum capsule because I think it allows you to do a lot in this build. If you're not great with vacuum capsule or not like comfortable with it, then I would suggest one of these. Forked lightning I think is really good because when you use this combo, if you have like multiple defense charges, you could use your defense, smack all your dummies across, then use your defense again and trigger forked lightning through whatever enemy you just hit them through. Really good for boss damage. Then large family, this could actually be like, if you don't like this, you could replace this and put this sooner. Large family is really good for damage. It just adds another dummy, so you're stacking, you know, another like, I guess 25% total damage on like hitting all your dummies. So I really like that, and also gives your trait cooldown lower. In this build, you want to go for like special charges and maybe like 1 or 2 defense charges, and I mean, basically just charges of everything. If you can get charge stacks, then this build's really, really good. Yeah, sharp noses, flash of genius, morning rage, laser lenses, or lightning rod dummies can all work in this build. This allows them to do more stuff on their own when you don't have like power charges, or if you're only hitting one dummy at a time, like say you don't have the defense up. And then yeah, flash of genius, these are all just good. Okay, this next build is the fireworks build. I like to start this with twin dummies. You could also do it with dummy ball, but ideally you want to get 2 dummies out right in front of you and just be able to smack both of them and trigger fireworks. Fireworks is, it doesn't actually need to be the first talent that you get in this. It can come at any time, but it's like the key to this build. You really want to get fireworks leveled up to legendary so that each smack of your hammer will send out a firework, and then it also makes Clockwork Medicine send out more fireworks. So you want these two combo together. It is good if you get them level 2 and 3. Another thing that you potentially just want early on is sharp noses. If you get sharp noses first, you could also, so you could have this order, or you could have this order, where this actually might be a better start. Fireworks, even though it is a fireworks build, this is just probably better in the end. Family meeting is really good because it increases your attack speed, letting you hit your dummies more often with oiled mechanisms, proccing more sharp noses. You kind of want heart ties in this build just because in chapter 3 dummies die and this build is entirely reliant on your dummies being alive. So again, go for vitality in this. Yeah, fireworks getting leveled up all the way with Clockwork Medicine. That's a great combo. If you have all your dummies on top of each other and just throw one of these, it's really nice. I would take Mecha Puppet in this as well, because Mecha Puppet, when Mecha Puppet hits with sharp noses, it hits for a lot of damage. Now, large family is a good option as well, just for trait cooldown, and could probably be up here, but that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is ultimate, 6, 7, 8, 9. Basically, lightning rod dummies is probably going to be good because you're going to be right on top of whatever enemy you're attacking, so it will, all your dummies should hit with this. Laser lens is just good as well, and then like flash of genius, if you don't get any of these and you're getting any of these down here, then maybe take flash of genius. Now in my mind, the unstable cores build is similar to like the rocket science, where there isn't really too many things you need. I would mainly say these first 4 talents are what you really want. Morning rage, obviously, because your dummies, like the whole goal of this build is to get them to die. Then I'd probably say flash of genius, just for more magical objects is probably going to be what does the most for you out of any of these talents. Large family, just mainly for that trait cooldown to get dummies up more often, so hopefully you have unstable cores proc more often. Heart ties, you actually kind of want this because you don't really need it in chapter 1, but in chapter 2 and 3, your dummies just won't live long enough if you don't have heart ties, so you kind of want this to keep them alive. And then magnetic hammer to place your dummies just makes it really, really easy. That way you don't have to run over them and pick them up, or, you know, if you can't get to them, you can hit them in a better spot. Laser lenses as well, just because you're going to be using your defense to keep dummies alive. And then I like vacuum capsule for placing my dummies, but you don't really need that. And then sharp noses and pogo hoppers if you want your dummies to just do stuff on their own. Okay, and then the last build I just want to talk about is a defense build. If you're going for defense cooldown and defense charges, just to get these defensive talents to proc a lot. Laser lenses would be the first one, and forked lightning. Those are his two better defensive talents than lightning rod dummies. Flux capacitor, just because you should have shield up quite a bit, pretty nice. Heart ties still, because you need your dummies to live. Shield normally isn't enough. Large family for, again, dummy cooldown, or just to have one more dummy up to combined with like laser lenses and forked lightning. And then lastly, you could also do the magnetic hammers flux capacitor build in this, which is still nice to get things like forked lightning to proc really easily. Family meeting, you hopefully have your dummies up a lot, so you can combine like that with sharp noses as well, and then just potentially flash a genius for more defense cooldown or more defense charges, which is really hard to pull out of that. So this is just kind of to add something that's highly unlikely. But yeah, those are the Geppetto builds and the order of most part of how I would want the talents to fall. All right, hope you guys enjoy this. Peace.